Imagine a man, a favorite of the Queen, yet a traitor to his own country. A fearless explorer who sailed across the oceans, yet a prisoner sentenced to death in his homeland. Sir Walter Raleigh. Should we remember him as a hero or a schemer? As he ventured in search of El Dorado, was he truly chasing a lost city of gold? Or was it all just part of a grand deception? And perhaps the biggest question of all, how did a man once trusted by Queen Elizabeth I find himself accused of treason and facing the executioner's blade? Welcome to the story of one of history's most fascinating figures. Sir Walter Raleigh was an English courtier, soldier, sailor, colonizer, politician, and writer. Born around 1552 at Hayes Barton in South Devon, he hailed from a Devonshire family. His father was Walter Raleigh of Fardell, and his mother was Catherine Gilbert. Before studying at Oriel College, Raleigh joined the Huguenots during the French Wars of Religion. In 1580, he took part in the campaign against Irish rebels in Munster and openly criticized the enforcement of English policies in Ireland. His bold opinions and military service brought him into favor with Queen Elizabeth I, enabling him to acquire substantial wealth through landholdings and influential positions. In 1592, Sir Walter Raleigh planned to settle down in Dorset with his wife, Elizabeth, the daughter of Sir Nicholas Throckmorton. However, he wanted to keep their marriage a secret because Queen Elizabeth I was known to be jealous. Despite his efforts, the Queen found out about their marriage in 1588 when Elizabeth gave birth to their first son. As a result, the Queen had the couple imprisoned in the Tower of London. Raleigh managed to secure his release by paying a large sum of money earned from one of his previous voyages. Unfortunately, their first son did not survive. The couple later had two more children, their second son, Walter, born in 1593, and their third son, Carew, born in 1604. After his imprisonment and the loss of Queen Elizabeth I's trust, Raleigh was unable to regain his former influence at the royal court. His extravagant spending habits and controversial ideas further diminished his popularity. Colonization efforts. Raleigh's colonization efforts were driven by his ambition to counter Spain's growing power in the New World. While his ventures were ultimately unsuccessful, he is credited with initiating the movement that eventually led to the establishment of English settlements in America. Although Raleigh himself never visited Virginia, he sponsored the planting of 3 colonies on the islands off North Carolina in 1585, 1586, and 1587. The first group of colonists returned to England while the others mysteriously disappeared, likely due to conflicts with indigenous people. Raleigh's expeditions also brought tobacco and the potato back to Europe. He popularized smoking in England and introduced the potato to Ireland. Although Raleigh discovered gold mines in South America, he received no support for his plans to colonize the region. Upon his return, he tried to spark interest among his countrymen by publishing The Discovery of the Large, Rich, and Beautiful Empire of Guyana, a book filled with detailed observations and captivating tales. Raleigh also participated in 2 renowned expeditions against the Spanish. He led the vanguard in the successful attack on Cadiz in 1596 and demonstrated his prowess during the raid on the Azores in 1597. Shortly after James Thirsti succeeded Elizabeth in 1603, Sir Walter Raleigh was accused of plotting to overthrow the king and place Arabella Stuart on the throne. In reality, Raleigh was primarily focused on opposing Spanish colonizers in the New World. Despite delivering a brilliant defense, he was convicted of treason based on highly questionable evidence and sentenced to death. However, his execution was postponed, and he was imprisoned in the Tower of London for 13 years. During his confinement, Raleigh spent his time conducting chemical experiments and writing. Raleigh regained his freedom by persuading the ambitious James I that he knew the location of a rich gold mine in Guyana. In 1617, he embarked on what would be his final, ultimately unsuccessful voyage. While Raleigh was ill aboard the ship, his men ventured up the Orinoco River in search of the mine. Defying King James's explicit orders, They clashed with the Spaniards, attacked the settlement of San Tomas, where Raleigh's son, Walter, was killed, and returned empty-handed. Upon Raleigh's return, an enraged King James, under pressure from Spain, had him arrested. After a brief hearing, Sir Walter Raleigh's previous sentence was upheld, and he was executed by beheading on October 29, 1618. Before his death, Raleigh spoke his final words: "I thank my God heartily that he hath brought me into the light to die, and not suffered me to die in the dark prison of the Tower, where I have endured much adversity and a long sickness. And I thank God that my fever hath not seized me at this time, as I prayed it would not." There are two main points of suspicion that His Majesty hath conceived against me, wherein His Majesty cannot be satisfied, which I desire to clear and resolve you in. One is, that His Majesty hath been informed that I have had some plot with France, and His Majesty had some reason to induce him thereunto. One reason that His Majesty had to conjecture so was that when I came back from Guiana, being come to Plymouth, I endeavored to go to Rochelle, which was because I would fain have made my peace before I came to England. Another reason was that upon my flight I did intend to fly to France for saving of my life, having had some terror from above. A third reason was the French agents coming to me, and it was reported I had commission from the King of France. The second suspicion was that His Majesty hath been informed that I should speak dishonorably and disloyally of him. But my accuser was a base Frenchman, a kind of chemical fellow, one whom I knew to be perfidious. For being drawn into this action at Winchester, in which my hand was touched, and he being sworn to secrecy overnight, he revealed it in the morning. But in this I speak now. What have I to do with kings? I have nothing to do with them, neither do I fear them. I have now to do with God. Therefore, as I hope to be saved at the last day, I never spoke dishonorably, disloyally, nor dishonestly of the king, neither to this Frenchman nor to any other. Neither had I ever in all my life a thought of ill against His Majesty. Therefore I cannot but think it strange that this Frenchman, being so base, so mean a fellow, should be so far credited, and so much for this point. I have dealt truly, and I hope I shall be believed. I confess I did attempt to escape, and I did dissemble, and made myself sick at Salisbury. But I hope it was no sin. The prophet David did make himself a fool, and did suffer spittle to fall upon his beard, to escape the hands of his enemies, and it was not imputed to him as sin. And I did it to prolong time till His Majesty came, hoping for some commiseration from him. And now I entreat you all to join with me in prayer, that the great God of heaven, whom I have grievously offended, being a man full of all vanity, and having lived a sinful life, in all sinful callings, having been a soldier, a captain, a sea captain, and a courtier, which are all places of wickedness and vice, that God, I say, would forgive me, cast away my sins from me, and receive me into everlasting life. So I take my leave of you all, making my peace with God." After the defeat of the Spanish Armada, in which Raleigh did not actively participate, he spent time in Ireland with the poet Edmund Spenser. Raleigh introduced Spenser to the royal court and encouraged the publication of his work, The Faerie Queene. In 1591, Raleigh published a report of the truth of the fight about the Isle of Azores. Throughout his life, Raleigh also wrote poetry, with notable examples including The Lie, a sharp critique of worldliness, and The Passionate Man's Pilgrimage, a poignant expression of religious faith. He authored numerous prose works on history, philosophy, politics, and naval and military matters. While imprisoned, Raleigh wrote his vast, unfinished History of the World, published in 1614. The work was highly regarded, going through 11 editions within 73 years. It remains notable for its personal insights and references to events from Raleigh's extraordinary life, earning him the title, The Last of the Elizabethans.